Daily Tech News Show is made possible by its listeners. Thanks to all of you, including Justin Zellers, Pepper Geesey, Carmen Bailey, and lifetime supporter Kevin Metcalf. On this episode of DTNS, Meta is kind of into news again. AI is developing faster than the internet, and Tasia Custode is here to tell us about her time using Pixel Studio. This is the Daily Tech News Show for Friday, October 25th, 2024. From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
And we've got a guest, folks. Tasia Custode is with us, YouTuber and host of AI Name This Show and the Talk Techie to Me podcast. Tasia, how you been doing?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I wish I had an update since I last saw y'all, but same old.
just plugging away.
Trucking along.
Yeah, I hear that.
Well, it's good to see you, and we're going to talk to you more in the show, but let's get to the quick hits. Blue Sky is set to introduce a premium tier, but unlike other platforms, it won't offer preferential treatment to paying users. While premium subscribers will gain access to features like custom profile options and enhanced video uploads, they won't receive any visibility boost or verification badges. The platform is also planning a tip jar feature to allow creators to monetize their content directly, although it's not, or should say it is unclear if Blue Sky will take a commission from these payments.
Google Photos plans to offer a new feature noting whether an image has been edited using AI tools. The information will include details about the specific tools used, Magic Editor, Magic Eraser, Zoom Enhance, for example, and will be displayed alongside general file information. This AI info section will be accessible in the image details view on both the web and app versions in Google Photos. The feature will also note when a photo is a composite of multiple images, as is the case with features, sometimes with Pixel's Best Take and Add Me.
A Google survey of nearly 3,000 technology professionals found that over 3/4 of them rely on artificial intelligence for at least one daily professional responsibility, but 39% say they don't trust AI-generated code. Google's 2024 State of the DevOps report says that AI adoption was positively correlated with increased flow, productivity, job satisfaction, code quality, and internal documentation quality. But when it comes to using AI to generate code, nearly 4 in 10 respondents have little to no trust in AI.
Waymo has secured a big ol' $5.6 billion in funding to expand its robotaxi service across the United States. The company says the funds will not only allow expansion to areas of the U.S. like upstate New York, Michigan, parts of Northern California, places that it just doesn't operate right now, but also advance the company's self-driving technology for commercial applications. Notably, Waymo, only the company right now currently operating a commercial robotaxi service in several major areas of the U.S. And the company recently agreed to a multi-year strategic partnership with Hyundai that would add the iconic 5 electric vehicle to its robotaxi fleet.
Today is Call of Duty Black Ops 6 launch day, though some players were actually able to start playing Thursday evening. This is the first COD released since Microsoft purchased Activision Blizzard in 2023, and the first Call of Duty released on Game Pass Ultimate day one. Game Pass is Xbox's monthly subscription service that allows gamers to play hundreds of games without having to purchase them individually. Call of Duty is one of the most successful game franchises ever, with 450 million units sold and over $31 billion made to date. I personally will be playing it in about 30 minutes after we get done with GDI. So let's dig into some of these tech stories. Meta has announced a multi-year deal with Reuters to integrate real-time news content into its AI chatbot. Starting Friday, U.S. users can query Meta's AI chatbot for news and current events, receiving summaries and links to relevant Reuters articles. While the specific details of the partnership, including any potential licensing for AI modeling training, remain undisclosed, Meta has confirmed that the collaboration will enhance its AI chatbot's ability to provide accurate, up-to-date news information. Now, Meta has made it clear that they don't really like it when it comes to news on their social media platforms, but that does not really appear to be the case when it comes to their chatbot. Tasia, I was just wondering, what you think about this. Is Reuters just a one-off for Meta, or is this the first of many, in your opinion?
The first of many, Rob, for sure. Because if you're listening to the language in this, and they don't really give us all the details, and I think that's for a reason, because they're probably looking to expand into other partnerships with other news agencies. And I'm really curious to know, like, behind the scenes of it in terms of how it's using it as like training data for llama, right? So I'm very curious, but I would think it's a smart move for them to have this as the first of many. You know, the more information people want, the more information people want. You know, the more you provide, the more they want. And you're going to want that breadth of information to give people as well, to be able to have like llama to pull from to give to people. So yeah, I'm curious to see how quick this will happen too, how many partnerships start tumbling down the line now.
Well, you know, the whole idea with Meta and specifically on Facebook, the idea of the relationships with news organizations breaking down was a very different thing. You know, an AI chatbot that Meta, pays for information to make its chatbot be used by as many of its users as possible that's a very different partnership. And I think the company may have just thrown in the towel, on the whole news thing, because again, for context, back in the day, if I shared a Reuters story on Facebook and there was a little blurb and Reuters wasn't getting a cut of that, it was like that was the issue that news organizations had with Meta. Facebook specifically, but certainly with Meta overall. And so if the chatbot is smarter because Meta needs this information, then and this is not the only company doing this and making these sorts of deals by far. I agree with you, Tasia. I see a lot more of this going forward.
I think that it's not just Meta, it's Perplexity, it's OpenAI, it's Google.
Yeah.
They all want their chatbot to become a verb like Google did for search. So when you think about how people are using chatbots, they're going to ask it newsy stuff. So, so Meta can't hold the line for their entire company, say we don't really want news on anything. They just say we don't want it in social media where it can kind of, be messy. But people who are looking for answers, they want to know about something that happened in the news. And they're hoping that Meta is hoping that their chatbot is a place where people will go to ask those kind of questions. So it just makes sense. And even, if you look further into it, Reuters has been fact-checking partner for Meta for 4 or 5 years now. So the fact that they've been doing that, it just kind of makes sense that they would work out a deal here. It is going to be interesting to me, though, because this article didn't make any mention to how they're licensing data from Reuters. Are they going to be using that journalistic data to actually train their algorithms? That probably is fodder for a much longer conversation, potentially on a different day.
Well, and also then it gets into a sort of a conversation of, well, how many partnerships do you have? Because if a model is trained on, if two companies have an agreement and one company is comprised of, I don't know, let's say 10 to 15 journalists, well, then it's going to sound a lot like those journalists. That might be great. That might be exactly what you're looking for. It also might not. So, you have to, it's like, how wide does the pool need to be before everyone says, oh, this is fair, fair and balanced. I mean, no one's ever going to say that, but, as fair and balanced as possible.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like how quick this landscape is shifting, because like you guys were saying, it wasn't how many months ago when these news organizations were pissed at companies like OpenAI and stuff. And now it's like, yeah, well, we'll go where the money is. And like, if you're going to pay us, like, you have to think of it as these guys are already using the content to train their large language models.
Yeah,
like,
get the money.
FYI. Yeah. So secure the bag. You know what I mean? So, and don't do any exclusivities. Because to your point, Sarah, it's like, we want a well-developed breadth of information, not just one lane.
I think you're going to see the news organizations be much smarter about working deals out. Whereas before it was like, please come take our data, until they realized how adverse that was to their bottom line. Now it's going to be, it's like, yeah, we want you to put your stuff in your AI chatbot, but we want to check, and we want those checks to come monthly or quarterly or whatever the deal, whatever the deal recommends. But I think that news organizations, they want their data to be there, but they are going to definitely work on licensing where they're getting paid for it, because they know that this is going to take traffic away from their actual websites.
I wonder, and maybe this is already in play more than I know about, but the whole idea of like, if you're an actor and you get residuals every time your episode gets reran on a particular channel, does the person who wrote that article really benefit from this? Or does the company that the person worked for at the time, which they don't anymore, benefit from this? And I think those sorts of structured partnerships are one of the biggest questions that I have at this point.
It's going to be really interesting.
A whole new business model.
Definitely, and quite a few. All right, so on the AI front, at the Bloomberg Tech Summit in London, happened this week, ARM CEO Rene Haas predicted that AI will progress more quickly than the internet itself, transforming sectors like healthcare, transportation, and manufacturing. This is something that I don't think any of us argue about, but I thought what was interesting is at what pace. He highlighted the need for efficient, high-performance chips to support the future of AI, noting that ARM is focused at this point on AI-capable processors. ARM is kind of all in on that. Now, Haas says that chips are important for things like diagnostics and autonomous systems and energy efficiency, all things that many sectors are working on right now. The company obviously wants to be at the forefront of this, and as the CEO of ARM, you're obviously going to say this, but just remembering a pre-world, a world pre-internet, which I was alive for, feels hard to do, but I remember things were very different, but it changed humankind. It didn't change humankind in a year or 3 years, but over the last 30 years, absolutely so much. Tasia, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the idea of our world changing that much faster because of AI? I mean, I don't think it's going to be 30 years. I think it's going to be more like 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe more like 10. But for me, I think it's once that infrastructure is in place, has been vetted, has been tested, it's kind of like your point about the internet. Like, we don't really just remember. I mean, some of us might remember a day where a specific thing happened where you're like, oh, this is a game changer. But it's kind of more this evolution. And so if you take something like the healthcare industry and AI, I think so much of it is going to be an evolution, and it'll happen really fast once everything is in place and has been implemented and has been proven to work and has been proven to be private, maybe with people's data, et cetera, all of the things, accurate if you're like a doctor looking for information for your patient or whatever it may be. Yeah. And in terms of production of vaccines, we're already seeing that type of stuff and it going so much faster than it could. Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got radiologists being like, this just makes me be a better doctor.
100%.
I think the speed cannot be underestimated, how fast things are changing. I mean, here we are talking about AI, and it's a conversation we have darn near daily now. 2 years ago, no one was having this conversation because ChatGPT 3 wasn't out yet. So it hasn't even been 2 years yet. And where are we now? And then when you think about the internet, a big reason why it took a minute for the internet to progress is because the infrastructure for it had to be laid. You had to actually get to the point to where people actually had computers at the house, that they actually had fast internet connections. The cables had to be laid for all that. Data centers had to be, all those things had to be built. Really, when it comes to AI, what is holding us back? Well, the chips are being built. That's definitely happening. But the real bottleneck is power. These things suck up enormous amounts of energy. So they've got to build, in some cases, nuclear power plants. They've got to do solar. All the ways you can get power is the way that these things need power. But when you think about that can get ramped up much more quickly than trying to get an entire country on a grid so you can actually even receive the data that these AI bots can ultimately create. So 30 years, no way. I don't know 3, but I think we're in the 5 to 10 year range to where we're going to see the world is going to function significantly different in 5 to 10 years because of what AI is presenting, as compared to the internet. Definitely, it has done the same thing, but it just took a little longer because all that infrastructure had to first be laid.
It kind of feels like, I know it's not, it's a little apples to oranges, but it's like, okay, internet being a thing in the world, let's call it 1994. I know it started earlier than that, but that's when a lot of people got like America Online for the first time. It's like, okay, what do we do? Let's start chatting, that sort of thing. And then I feel like the mobile revolution was, how everything changed now. I mean, I'm sitting at a desktop right now. That's still how I prefer to do the show, but most of my life is in a mobile world. And it didn't used to be that way, besides like texting my friends. For a long time, like you would have a cell phone and you would call or text your friends. You couldn't do anything else. I mean, even with a BlackBerry, you could kind of like check your email, but no. And now it's like, okay, now we're in that third wave of some kind where it's like, all right, what is this all gonna do for us? Is this, I know people wring their hands about, everyone's gonna lose their jobs, and that's going to happen in some capacity, but it's more of like, what is this going to do for us as a human race? How are we going to live? Is it going to be better? I think in many ways the answer is yes. It is going to be better because information is that much quicker, and at our fingertips. But it's going to be different.
Yeah, efficiencies, how we use this, like when we talk about we start getting agents, and that's when it's going to be really helpful, I think, for us in terms of just like our day-to-day lives, like to your point, Sarah, it's kind of just like easy for us to say now, like, oh, it's cool because, like we're chatting with our chatbots and like, they're not really like booking our tickets yet, or they're not really, like we're close. We're making images, but it's like once this actually becomes more of like being our actual assistants.
Yeah.
And that's when things are going to get real crazy. And two, like for efficiency for everybody, like if you can offload something and have it doing that work for you, or doing something you would do like way more efficient, where's your strength that could be focused here? And if we can all just be positive about it, and if we can all use it for good, this would be great.
Yeah.
We won't be panicking in 10 years.
Well, yeah, and that whole idea of like the persona is okay. It can be trained on me. Maybe it can sound pretty darn near like me. For all things my life related. I don't want to not hang out with my friends and just be like, hang out with my persona instead. It's like that. The whole idea for me is like, oh, you have more time to be yourself and do the things that you actually want to do instead of the, minutia that we all have to deal with. But I think we're still in those early days where we don't know.
Yeah, you think about it. We're in a stage now where literally all data is available to you at your fingertips. There's pretty much nothing you can't find out on your phone in the middle of a field as long as there's a cell tower near it. And where we're moving into is that now that all data is available, we've got these really, really smart computers that can just look at all data simultaneously and make correlations and give you answers on all that data at the speed of you asking it. And that's where AI is right now. But that's just been in the last couple of years that we've noticed it. So just think of where we're going to be in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to hear us talk about on the show? One way is to let us know inside of our subreddit. Subreddit stories can be voted on at www.reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
As part of its Pixel 9 line announcement back in August, Google also revealed Pixel Studio, powered by both on-device generative AI and Google's own cloud-based Imagen 3 text-to-image model. The app lets users create images through prompts. Now, Tasia, you've spent some time using Pixel Studio, and it's probably quick and easy. At least Google's on-stage demo made it seem that way.
Yeah, it is. I was actually surprised because I thought well, this isn't going to work quite like this, and it's not going to work fast. But it did, and it does. So I've been playing around with it a little bit. I mean, just to create kind of some fun random images right now. But it is very quick, you guys. Like, I'm talking, I think I wait like 2 seconds, and it's completely generated an image. Sometimes on a regenerate, it might be 3 seconds. But I was pleasantly surprised, I guess, in terms of speed, in terms of accuracy. You can't create any images of humans yet. For obvious reasons. Google's had some issues with that, so I think they're taking it slow with that a little bit. What I do find interesting, and that's a little bit different than the demo, from what I remember from the demo when they showed the regenerate, it kept a lot of the same formatting of the picture. Now I feel like when you hit a regenerate, if you say want to add something, or not the regenerate, but if you add something to your prompt to, you know, like, okay, I want to add something to this photo, it changes the whole composition, and it doesn't like keep it and add the one thing. Like if you're like add a moon in the sky, it doesn't keep everything as is and then add a moon. It completely changes the whole image. So that is a little bit different than what the demo was. But other than that, I mean, it's been a pretty easy experience for me. I guess it's just more like, for me, I question if I need an on-device image generator. Like, do I actually need it?
Well, that was going to be my first question, right? It's like, okay, it's cool to have the technology, but unless I'm just like throwing funny like memes at friends, which I do, I mean, you know,
sure,
fairly, you know, like how much is this going to help me? Totally depends on what you do for work and, you know, what you do for fun, right?
Yeah, I think the big argument for me for it is there's something to be said for staying within the ecosystem in which you live and work and breathe. So for anyone that is either in a Google ecosystem or like a Pixel ecosystem or something, it's huge to not have to go out to a third party to now do the thing, whatever the thing may be. So that is my big argument for. The reason I question it is because I found, like, for me, and granted, I'm not like an influencer. I don't do a lot of static image posts on social media. I also see a use case for small businesses, entrepreneurs, things like this, where you're pumping out a bunch of content and now you can do basic stuff that looks good or good enough
maybe you're
for
selling
social.
some shoes and you just wanted to, you know, kind of look cooler than what you could do otherwise.
Right.
Do you see a significant benefit to this happening on device as compared to if it just made a call to a server in the same amount of time, got it was generated on the server and then it was just sent back to you? Is there any big reason why doing it on device makes a big difference?
I mean, speed, and also people will claim, you know, privacy and security, but I'm always for, and especially with this, like, this does both. It is using like Imagine 3 from Google as well. So like, but I'm always a believer of don't prompt anything you wouldn't want your grandma to see in the first place, whether on device or in the cloud. Okay. You know, so it's the security thing, and whatever people think that might be in their head, that's like a big reason of like why to do it on device. Also I realize this is using both, but if you can focus on things that are on device, typically it might use less resources. Like, that's another reason for me why I question, like, this is cool, and I've had a lot of fun making images of animals and stuff, but like, do I need to be using like our natural resources for this? Like, I created an image of a penguin wearing a top hat riding an elephant. While cute, like, did I need to make that image? Did I use it for anywhere? Like, I used it in my YouTube video about Pixel Studio, but like, am I killing the earth for this? I don't know, you guys.
I listened to a podcast recently where somebody made the same. I mean, they were kind of making a joke, but it was the same comment of like, and this was specifically related to Apple's being able to, you know, create your own emoji, you know, from scratch. Like, I want a squirrel holding a microphone, you know, that kind of thing. And they were like, cool that you can do it in theory, just because you can, but also at what cost? You know, like how much is this something that we all need? Although I think humans adapt pretty quickly. There was a time where, going back to our conversation about, pre-internet days, where I was like, you just had like one computer in like the office, and that's where you go and do computer things, and you come out and like be a human again.
Yeah.
That is just simply not, that's not the world we live in anymore. Emojis at one point I thought they're kind of stupid, and now I'm like, can't live without them. So I really think we adapt quickly to these things.
Yeah, I can remember a time when if I wanted to make a phone call, I had to actually walk into the kitchen and stand up in the kitchen at the phone.
It was
to
attached.
make the phone call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It was on the wall.
It was
Same.
part of the wall. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had a whole
There was
device
there was a
hanging on the
dial,
wall.
Rob.
There was.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was.
No, I mean, so that's the thing is like, it's like, I think it's important for us all to be mindful of how we're using these tools and why. And, like I did in my animal image creation, I created one because I have a border collie. I have a border collie catching a tennis ball in the air. And it was a freestyle version of it because you can set different image styles. I find the freestyle ones are most like lifelike. And, listen, if I had a border collie rescue or if I was a dog trainer or something, I mean, what a quick and easy way. Like, I don't need to hire a photographer. Yeah.
It's like the Instagram ad you don't even have to really work at.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I can see artists just cringing right now as they listen to this conversation. It's just not a good day for them.
I'm sorry, but I'm not an artist.
Yeah. So
Okay.
So it's it's really interesting. Like I said, I'm still struggling to see why do we need to do this on device. I understand that, well, privacy, but like I said, border collie with a tennis ball. What do you need to be private about that? I just thought it was a little different.
Yeah, there's definitely, Rob, I mean, you make a good point, and we have artists on our show quite regularly, and, artists being like, oh man, I could have done that better, or differently, or just me, that's definitely something to consider here. But Tasia, to your point, yeah, you have a small business. You're running a border collie rescue. You just want to, doctor up something real quick, and maybe even, add some art on top of that. But just get started. I think that's where AI works for. At least for everything that I do, is like, just get me started on some things. It's not that I'm just sitting back sleeping while you're doing it. No, we're not there yet, and I don't even want to be there. But it's more of like, okay, help me out doing stuff that I'm not that good at, so that I can do the thing that I am good at.
Exactly, and I use it exactly like you're saying. So whether it's image generation, whether I'm asking Gemini or another LLM to help me get my thoughts in order and structure something for me, whether it be a presentation or a webinar, or help me write something, it's a starting point for me. It's don't rely on what it's giving you. I always try to tell people that, but use it to help you brainstorm, use it to help you get started, use it to help you say, like, if you are not artistic, Rob, like me, it could be something where, say you are employing a graphic designer or somebody, but you're having trouble saying, like, this is like my thought, like like this. Well, if you can have these tools like a Pixel Studio tell you, help tell your designer what you're looking for, it can help get your idea out.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Very
Best
much
of both
so.
worlds.
Especially, not everybody's speaking the same language, especially when it comes to design. Len Peralta tried to make the show today. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us, but he did create art for us. This is a message about the future of news, courtesy of Meta and Reuters. Oh my gosh. Zuckerberg named handsomest man in the world. Zuckcoin makes initial big splash in economy. 10 ways Big Zuck changed my life. Okay, so I see what you're going for, Len. This is why we were advocating for, if Meta's going to make a relationship with one company, let's expand. Because we don't just want, that one reporter at Reuters to be, your next chatbot. But good stuff. Good stuff as always. If you want a free digital copy of today's art made by Len Peralta, become a patron of Len's at patreon.com/Len. Len's also doing holiday cards. It's that time of year, everybody. He has done holiday cards for so many of you, and he is so good at it. If you want a custom-drawn holiday card, Len is your man. You can commission him at lenperaltastore.com.
So thanks to Len Peralta, and thank you, Tasia Custode. Can you tell the folks what you've got going on?
Yeah, people can find me on YouTube. I'm at Tasia Custode. And also, my fellow techspert Tristan Jutra and I have a podcast all about AI. It's called AI Named This Show. Guys, we do keep it a little bit fun. We try not to be doomers. We keep it light, and we try to clear up all the jargon for everybody around AI.
And folks, I know people are already missing Tom as he is on vacation, but if you'd like to get more Tom, you can watch Tom's Top 5, the show where Tom breaks down the top 5 things you need to know about a technology. This week, Tom counts down the top 5 scariest tech horror movies. You can catch it at Daily Tech News Show on TikTok, at DTNS Picks on Instagram, and YouTube at youtube.com/Daily Tech News Show. Patrons also stick around for the extended show, Good Day Internet. It's Friday and time for a round of which would you rather be more scared of? AI chatbot version of yourself, AM, PM food, or public speaking? Find out your fears.
Oh boy. You can catch our show live Monday through Friday. Sometimes it's horror, sometimes it isn't. 4 p.m. Eastern, 2000 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We're back doing it all again on Monday as we discuss how to do a good podcast using generative AI and perhaps even a version of yourself, with Allison Sheridan joining us. Have a great weekend.
This week's episode of Daily Tech News Show was created by the following people: host, producer, writer Tom Merrick, host, producer, writer Sarah Lane, executive producer, booker Roger Chang, producer, writer, co-host Robb Dunewood, video producer Joe Kuntz, producer at large Anthony Lemos, Spanish language host, writer, producer Dan Campos, science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackerman, social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding, our mods Beatmaster W. Scottis S1, BioCow, Captain Kipter, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music and art provided by Martin Bell, Dan Loaders, Mustafa A., Acast, and Len Peralta. Live art performed by Len Peralta. Acast ad support, Tatiana Matias. But Patreon support, Tom McNeil. Contributors for this week's show include Shannon Moore, Scott Johnson, and Justin Robert Young. Guests for this week's show included Ariel Waldman, Craig Porter, and Tasia Custode. And thanks to all of our patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.